You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
And welcome back to, welcome to In the Lab with Genifer, Monday after the Cannabis Cup. Woo! What a crazy weekend, right, Jill?
I'm too tired to even woo. It was a long weekend.
A long weekend, but the good news is we have special guests here today from the clinic who absolutely cleaned up the Cannabis Cup.
Woohoo!
Winners. I mean, crazy. So we have Ryan Cook, who's the general manager.
Hey, how are you?
Good. And then we have Nelson, who I don't even know what your title is, but I call you the concentrate master, right? Hash. Hash master. Well, all right. So what we're going to do, this first segment is talk about the Cannabis Cup and what kind of experiences we've had here, and then also kind of go over the categories and what you guys won and why you think you won. And it seems like every contest you guys win something. Every contest.
That's a good thing, right?
Oh my God, it's a phenomenal thing. But you guys go above and beyond all around in the grow, the dispensary. I mean, your employees are so knowledgeable, and every time somebody walks in the clinic, they just have a phenomenal and a different experience, I think, with cannabis.
Oh, it's great to hear. Obviously, we put a lot of work into this, and when you say knowledgeable, sales force and that kind of stuff, it's, something that we spend a ton of time, dealing with. Ultimately, we do 2 seminars a month with all of our staff on, from doctors coming in to, lawyers coming in to med officers coming in. We train our staff on just about everything, but we also spend a lot of time talking to them about the plant and what they need to know about it and how they need to be able to talk to patients about it. I think that's even one interesting thing, when we're dealing with like cannabis cups. A lot of people will ask me, I'm not quite sure I understand the medical benefit of, winning the High Times Cannabis Cup. But, I think for us, it's sitting around and talking, internally about how we improve and how we get better and what else can we do and how can we change the growing process and, what new genetics can we possibly create, and why. And I think all of that, is pretty evident, when we're capable of taking home some hardware. So
some serious hardware. Oh my God, these things are nuts. Just so I can show everyone a couple ribbons, and then Nelson over there has the
I don't know where
the cup.
Is.
Sorry, it's that bulb right there. So anyway, all right, well, let's talk about, there was, 5 different categories, right? Hybrid, sativa, indica, edible, and the U.S. Cup. So kind of tell me about those different events and what did they mean?
Sure. The sativa indica hybrid are going to be the typical ones that everybody, will see at every event there pretty much is. And, last year we were lucky enough to take home first place with our Star Dog Guava in sativa. And ultimately this year it took third. So we were still really happy that it placed. And that was one of those medals that we got. And then the Tangy actually took first in sativa. So, we're excited about that. To be able to bring home a cup is unbelievable, and I think anybody who has one would be a liar to tell you that it wasn't awesome.
Sure. Yeah, they're
the
totally
Tangy's a
lying.
great strain too. The Tangy.
What is it?
Yeah, what's the genetics?
It's I don't even know. I guess it's a really good jack and
It's one you guys created, correct?
No. It's one that DNA is responsible for.
Okay.
Yeah, there's in fact actually last
night.
night, if you see some of the video or anything like that, you'll see a guy came up on stage with us, a little bit longer hair. His name is Dave.
Yeah, we call him Tangy Dave, but it's pretty much an insane jack cross. So
Cool.
Yeah,
people don't expect it.
But Dave created it a couple of years ago, along with one of our he's definitely friends with Reserva Bravada, and so those guys were able to kind of get this strain released, and ultimately, I mean, it's done no different than a lot of other strains that those guys have released. I mean, they start winning, and I mean, ultimately, it's one out in L.A., it went out in Amsterdam, one here, so
completely different judges. I might add in
For
every
sure.
place.
For
So-
sure.
But it's a unique strain because most of those citrusy strains will have that grapefruit, terpene profile, whereas the tangy smells like tangerine. It's just really unique. So it's easily identifiable, I guess, which is kind of sets apart from the rest of the citrusy sativa strains that I've tried.
Now, DNA Genetics is out of where?
They're out of Amsterdam.
They're out of Amsterdam.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, they do have DNA California as well, but they're ultimately the genetics company that everybody is very familiar with is got their name out in Amsterdam for sure.
Well, I remember I was in your booth and with my buddy Sean Honecker, who owns a few dispensaries, and he was like, "Oh my God, there's DNA Genetics over there," and I'm like, "Where?" He's like, "Right there." Oh my God. They're like big time, and I was like, "Okay."
No,
Clearly I can't grow anything, but.
They're big time for sure. I mean, ultimately those guys have been. I mean, since they literally stepped foot in Amsterdam, and they are Americans. They're from California, but since they stepped foot in Amsterdam, and they've been winning the cup every year. And I mean,
for
it's
10 years strong. They've been doing this. So.
And I mean, and a lot of those strains that have won the cup win multiple years and end up being something that everyone across the nation is if not internationally is dying to get their hands on it.
And then, okay, so then talk to me about Reserva Privata and how that fits in with the clinic and DNA Genetics.
Sure. So Reserva is also ultimately means private reserve, and they kind of got together with some individuals that they knew and allowed some really incredible breeders that didn't necessarily have a platform to release some really incredible genetics, and they've been doing that, and I think Reserva gave us an opportunity to also bring some incredible genetics and at least to have a name behind it here in Colorado. I mean, ultimately these are all our genetics. We don't we're not ultimately breeding with any of their stuff with transferring things back and forth, but
right.
we've had the ability to create Reserva Bravada Colorado here, and then start releasing our own line of seeds. So, we last year at the Cup, we actually released our first line, which is the Confidential Collection. Everybody, I think, knows that DNA has also won a lot of awards over the years for their LA Confidential cut. And so, we were able to cross the LA Confidential with a lot of our strains. And, we ultimately crossed probably about 20 different crosses, and then bred those out, saw how they did, and chose 10 that we ended up releasing, and then went ahead and did it again this year, and we just did our Sour Series release, and we released that actually on 420 at our stores. So and ultimately that one is a little bit smaller series. It's only 5 strains that we're releasing right now, but hopefully everyone will be able to keep coming back in and getting some some of the new seeds that are that we're able to produce.
So, okay, so now I'm starting to understand. So, Reserva Privata actually allows you, though, to make your own breeds under that name.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But I think, what's incredible is that, Reserva is made up of some really, really incredibly talented breeders and that have been doing this for a long time. I mean,
Sure.
I would be a liar to say that it is not an advantage to be able to utilize knowledge and information from people, and I think that's one thing that is going to make this, continue to grow and provide better medication to the patients. I mean,
sure.
Like I say, we keep trying to improve our process, and, Tangy, I think, is one example of that. So.
Well, what else is evident by the clinic and your products is you can definitely tell that you go above and beyond the cure everything. I mean, it's just not about your cannabinoid numbers, but it's about everything that represents the plant. And I was asking Ryan, we were talking about soil and stuff like that, and there is so much to growing that I think that what happens when you get on a commercial scale is a lot of people just lose their passion and everything for the growing. It becomes just a process, and people, cut the cure and just want to throw things on the shelves. And, I know that never happens with you guys. It really doesn't. And that's huge right now, especially when there's a shortage of products. So I could see how people would want to cut corners, but you guys never do. How much do you think that affects you guys and your business?
Well, I mean, obviously it makes us a bit more successful. I mean, I think, anyone that concerns themselves more with quality than quantity, will do better in this business, period. I mean, that is a challenging thing. I think anybody who has one of these businesses understands completely that, a lot of growers, I think, in the past probably had a lot of concern for yield, and because of it, they have certain techniques in which to grow their plants to ensure that they are yielding a lot. And I think it's no different. I think that's ingrained in any grower there is. And so, we've spent a lot of time working, internally about how to stop ourselves and say, all right, what do we need to look at? What should we be changing? What can we do to make this product better, as opposed to being able to produce more?
And it's the best. It's the fire. It's like, yeah, we all. I mean, I just feel like so many people are just stuck where they are, and they don't want to take any chances or really do anything new. And it's great that the clinic doesn't feel that way, and they're always trying to strive to be better, because I think at the end of the day, that's where we're going to get the best and most medicinal medicine anyway. I mean, even though the High Times Cup was a recreational thing, there were still a lot of patients, I think, that showed up that still got educated and were learning about all the new things. I mean, I was in the extraction tech booth, right? They do propane and butane extractors, and I'm sitting there going, wow, I just can't even. We're so advanced from where we were 3 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, I wonder what it'll be like in another 3.
Right.
So,
what kind of?
Can't wait to find out.
I can. Slow down.
Yeah.
No, I'm ready to try it all. Bring it on, baby.
So, what is it like when you win all these awards? I mean, because I know you guys work your butt off, like all of you guys. I know a lot of people who work at the clinic, and, they love it, but you guys do work hard. So is it like vindication when you do win these awards?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, just, I guess, to stop and say, yes, we have a big company. I mean, the company is now roughly about 80 employees. I mean, in 3.5 years that we've built to that now with ultimately 6 retail locations and 3 grow facilities and a MIP facility, it takes a lot to be able to to run this company. I mean, there's a lot involved. And so, for all of those individuals that you don't see walk up on stage, that don't, you don't see in all of these pictures or online or anything like that, I mean, it's vindication for them for sure, that they realize that, I mean, we are a big company, but we're also a very close family. And I don't use that term loosely. When we talk about family, we talk about being extremely loyal to one another. And I think that's one thing that's kept this company together. I think anyone who has owned a business here, in Colorado, specifically to the dispensary model, have known that some of those relationships are very challenging to keep together. And so loyalty is extremely, extremely important to us. And and I think that's, I mean, we're a big group of friends. Ultimately, really the first kind of 30 employees that we had are all college buddies of ours. I mean, everyone left their careers to do this seriously, and had to ultimately bet on the come that we were going to all be able to work really, really hard and make this successful. And so I'm proud all the time when I see that. I mean, of course, winning medals and cups and that kind of stuff is awesome, but I'm very excited about what we've done for our business and how we've developed employees and what we're doing for Colorado, period,
Well, and that's one of the biggest things. I mean, I'm not kidding. Every time I'm in your store, I always am hearing I usually learn something. I mean, the bud tenders just really go above and beyond and really, really know what they're talking about. Plus, you have such little employee turnover. I mean, overall, for sure, for the industry. And I know you're also very good to your employees. You guys do offer health insurance and a whole bunch of other things. So,
I'm proud to say that, as a company, I mean, we do offer full health, dental, vision, 401k, paid vacation. I mean, this is a real business that we want people to be successful and know that they can have a career here.
Absolutely, which is very important because a lot of other businesses don't do that. I would like to mention Jill. When Jill had her 4 dispensaries, same thing with her. She did have health insurance and all of that stuff too. And I think more and more, hopefully, companies are going towards that. I know I want to offer health insurance as soon as I can for my employees. So, but anyway, we need to take a break, and we'll be right back. Blue Sage Microbes unveils the ultimate in superior soil, Ideal Soil, a 16-quart bag of the best growing soil ever engineered. Superior plant health and vitality is a direct result of the structure and chemistry of your soil. How good is your growing soil? Is your growing soil really balanced? How do you know? Well, Blue Sage Microbes has a newly designed growing soil that is the most advanced growing medium ever offered for cannabis cultivation. This is the only brand in the marketplace that provides growers with an ideal soil structure designed to work specifically with their cultivation systems. You will have your best grow results ever. Call now for a special introductory offer, 888-959-8551, or log on to bluesagemicrobes.com and experience a new level in growing. That's 888-959-8551.
Call Canisher at 1-800-420-5757 for all your insurance needs. Canisher understands the risks you face each day, and we are there to protect your business and your investment. Since 2010, Canisher has been serving the cannabis industry nationwide. Call Canisher at 1-800-420-5757 or visit us on the web at canisher.com to learn more about our insurance and risk management services. Proud member of the NCIA.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
All right, and we're back. So now I'd like to get into the hash and concentrates. I get a lot of questions. People, and we assume so much in Colorado, but people just aren't educated and don't understand, what is a concentrate, what's hash, what kinds of hash, all of that kind of thing. So, Nelson, why don't we talk about the kind of hashes that you make? What's your specialty? Why do you make hash? How you got in the business? All that kind of stuff.
I guess originally I got into the business just because, I was like any other serious pothead. I wanted the strongest pot around. And so started growing it, started looking for the best strains. And then you get some of the better strains like the OGs. And then you think, how can I make this stronger? And the concentrates were the way to go, I think. And, just like everybody else, we started off with water hash, the non-solvent hash. But, we began figuring out that with solvents like, solvents as simple as isopropyl, that you could get a cleaner, purer product. And then eventually we progressed to, I think N-butane is just the pinnacle right now for a solvent, especially for hash. It's cleaner, it's better than using things that have mercaptans in it like the cans do. So
sure, let's talk a little bit about that. So I've had Matt Ellis on kind of to talk about all of extractions, but let's talk about the N-butane versus the cans. Is in your opinion, is it because of the contaminants and the mercaptans and all of that in the can, because the can is not meant to be tipped upside down? What is it?
I'm not so sure about that. I just think that since the N-butane is a pure product to begin with, why worry about purging those, the mercaptans and the propane and these other things that aren't supposed to be in there? I mean, it's designed for a lighter. It's not really designed for hash. Whereas if you use instrument grade butane, I feel like, as long as you're using proper techniques to make your hash, I think it's, it's just a safer product to begin with, and you don't really have anything of those worries that you really have to worry about. It's just, if we're going to make a medical grade product, we should be using medical grade solvents is, I think, how we look at it.
Sure, and butane, is just phenomenal for ripping off those cannabinoids.
Yeah, absolutely, and for the terpenes as well. I mean, we've used CO2, we've used, every solvent in the book, including limiting, organic solvents, all kinds of solvents. It's just nothing will keep the terpene profile like butane does. And so, and that's just, we've tried everything else. I think maybe we can work on, some more of the purge techniques to get a more consistent product with everybody. But, as far as I'm concerned, I think, butane kind of is the solvent right now.
Well, I mean, what do you guys think about the fact? I mean, ultimately, butane has a million different grades. There's ultimately,
absolutely.
butane that I was talking to one of the guys the other day, and it was like a can for a barbecue tank. It was like $3,500 for one tank of butane that big. So there are varying degrees, no question,
Sure.
And so, with testing and not, whether we're testing for residuals around here or not, I mean, I think we would like to get to that point, and ultimately testing is still, as you know, a tough thing. I mean, they do make some challenges for us to jump through some hoops like that. But I think we need to do more testing on butane, not just the end product, but also on the butane, so that we know what kind of butane we're actually putting into this product. I mean, we're using what we believe is the best product that we can use right now, but there's so much more research that needs to be done, I feel like, in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I can tell you from just my personal experience that the terpene profile stays so much better with butane. And that's something I hadn't experienced, before 2 years ago. Everything was bubble water extraction, which I still like once in a while because I don't always need the strongest possible. I have 2 kids.
Oh, yeah.
I have to stay awake
Bubble hash
sometimes.
is great. I still love bubble hash.
So, but even then you can get some great terpenes out of bubble, but I never experienced anything, once we started using N-butane, like your
you have a
eyes
polar
water,
solvent.
your nose burn.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a polar solvent in water versus non-polar solvent. So with water, you're pulling out a lot of the opposite terpenes. So you'll pull out like linalool and some of the lavender terpenes and things like that. So, it's really strain specific, and some hashes will make better, bubble hash, and some hashes will make better, or some strains will make better wax.
Do you know that going in, or do you just trial and error, or do you know?
Most of it is trial and error, And like I said, we've identified so many of these terpenes, but you can read about a terpene in the book, but you can't scratch and sniff it, So
Right.
The only way you're going to really figure it out
Great
is...
idea.
No, right? Seriously.
Somebody's stealing
totally,
that already.
Totally off topic. There is a Just Say No to Drug group that in the UK passed out scratch and sniff cards so people could recognize cannabis farms. So I
hope
didn't
it
get
wasn't
my
OG
hands on
Kush.
one. If you're in London, please send us one. I really, really want to see this
that'd
thing.
be
Wow,
awesome.
that is pretty cool.
I want to know how it smells.
Well, so yes, and I can't wait until Can Labs test for terpenes. Hopefully, it'll be fairly soon. So, what you're telling me is when you do water hash, it will pull different terpenes than butane.
It will, and it's possible to keep some of the same terpenes with water. It's just that's why the technique matters so greatly, and especially in making water hash. That's why Nick T's hash is so special, because he's so careful in his process. He's able to retain a lot of the terpenes that even the water soluble ones that that normally people rinse away when they're just being a little too rough with making their hash. He's able to. Yeah, so there's just a lot of different things that people do that that are able to tweak their hash a little bit and make it a little bit better. But like I said, with butane, especially with the hash you make, it's easier to keep the terpene profile, and it's easier to to store that hash and keep that terpene profile.
Interesting.
So,
And CO2, yeah, that's like the biggest complaint. They don't want to put in food because you have to do a lot to it.
Yeah.
To put it in food.
CO2 is good, but the problem is you have extreme high heats and extreme pressures, like between 5,000 to 7,500 psi to actually get to supercritical conditions with CO2. And so you're pulverizing everything inside that too at that point.
Right. So I can imagine you're not.
Yeah, we've
pouring
had
money.
the fortune to do a few CO2 extractions, and we worked a few different strains. And I was trying to find a strain with the terpene profile, like strains like Maui, grapefruit, to the skunks, to the OGs, to the diesels, to blueberries, everything. I said, maybe what can we keep in this, and why does everything smell like carrots? And that's just
right.
Yeah.
And to connoisseurs and people that really take it recreational, that that matters a lot. Now, for medicinal purposes and for children that may be taking it for seizure and stuff like that, obviously it doesn't mean that much. But what what was I going to say? What is your favorite? Well, let's talk about the different types, like shatter, butter, budder, wax. I mean, tell me kind of what all those mean.
I think shatter, butter, wax is just different ways to distinguish different textures and colors and types of hash. So shatter is just going to be, it's more translucent. It's usually more amberish or yellowish, and it's usually harder. Almost looks like a taffy, but, it's kind of like a candy. And butter is going to be, almost like a peanut butter. It's going to be a little softer. It's more pliable. It's not going to be translucent. It's going to be opaque. Maybe a little bit tanner, sometimes a little bit browner. And then wax or crumble is usually going to be a step beyond butter. And it's just going to be a little bit drier and just softer, crumbly pieces of hash. But
so it's all a different process. So
yeah,
longer
essentially
time.
a different process of purging and
Okay.
What you do, because everyone uses different methods.
Right.
After the hash has been extracted, it's just a different. A lot of people use vacuum purging. A lot of people use aeration or oxygenation. A lot of people use just heat. And for us, we use a combination of all three, and we do make shatter and everything as well. So
Right.
It was interesting to find out the different techniques that people use to make the different types of hash. Obviously, I'm more of a butter and a wax fan. I just feel like we're able to keep the terpenes a little bit better, just because with shatter, you're having to keep extended periods of time in a vac oven. And
Okay, so it sucks a lot of that out.
yeah, exactly. And what a vacuum does is it lowers the boiling points of all the compounds inside of it. So the longer it spends in there, and especially if you're heating it to 80 degrees or higher, like a lot of people are doing, then essentially you're going to cook off some of these terpenes that can cook off at room temperature. So it's a fine balancing act. And like I said, since all the terpenes in cannabis haven't been identified, a lot of it really is a guessing game.
Right.
Maybe we can use things like fractional distillation to actually identify separate compounds and singular terpenes inside cannabis, but until we get some funding to do that,
I know. Tell me about it. Please send your check too. Well, and what's very interesting and what's going to be very exciting for myself and Can Labs is to where we can identify those terpenes and how medicinally they are helping. Because I have a lot of people, that let's say they get back their tests and they're like, wow, I thought this would be, way higher THC.
But that's not always a bad thing, right? Yeah.
Right. It's not always a bad thing. And that's what people have to understand. There's somebody out there for every strain, for every, cannabinoid count. But I can't wait until we figure out, the terpenes, because I think in sometimes that the terpenes obviously enhance the effects of THC.
Absolutely.
And some of them dilate your bronchioles and all of that stuff. So it's going to be very interesting when we can start, breeding for those special ratios of also terpenes.
And
as
absolutely.
well.
And I think, without even realizing it, over the years, people have been doing that, subconsciously breeding strains, because the first thing a pothead does is when they open up a bag is they put it up to their face and they smell it.
Right.
And what they're doing is they're smelling the terpene blend in it. And that's what, the breeder goes for. That's usually the first thing we look at is, when we're growing a plant, even in week 6 or rubbing the fan leaves. What does it smell like? Is this a combination of two? Does it come off more OG? Does it come off more fruity? It's one of those things. And as a hash maker, we've been able to kind of cheat a little bit and make blends, and that's actually what we entered into the cup and stuff. But it's really special what we've been able to do. But I agree. Once we are able to do more of the terpene testing, it's gonna make a lot of sense. Just because I'm not sure that we absolutely understand what all the different terpenes do, but
Right.
some terpenes like beta-caryophyllene are considered cannabinoids. Some
Right.
of them actually prime our CV receptors. For these cannabinoids. So
Right.
there's a lot of physiological things I think that are going on that aren't fully understood. So it's an exciting time for me. Like I have a lot of questions to ask people. I'm excited for
Absolutely.
the next few years. So.
No, and that's another thing that makes the clinic great is you ask questions. You don't know it all. We can always keep learning.
How do you learn? I mean, there's no hash school, so
There is
Advanced hash school,
A
Jill.
lot of it is trial and error, and a lot of it was, bio classes, and parents wanting me to do pre-med and me not wanting to.
Are they happy with what you're doing now?
Yes and no.
Right.
Yes and no. Yeah, as long as
Yeah.
you keep my last name out of it. Yeah.
You know what? I don't even know your last name, Nelson.
That's by design.
Exactly. He's like Madonna.
He doesn't have a last name.
Right. Soon he'll be a symbol.
Just an N.
Just an N. Well, that is incredible. And Jill knows more about hash and stuff. I don't smoke hash. I still have very low tolerance to flowers, and unfortunately, I can't. It's terrible, but I don't take the time to notice the different effects in my body. It all makes me tired and hungry.
Yeah, sometimes if it can get you too high, it's just too high, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
I still love flowers too, but yeah.
It's just about pacing yourself. And one thing about the terpenes I think is interesting, I can't wait for more research, is certain smells, you expect certain effect based on that smell. And I find that generally to be really true with hash, sometimes deceiving for flower. But, when you smell Tangy, of your winners, is a Jack breed, and when you smell Jack, I just know I'm going to clean the house.
Yeah, exactly.
After I smoke this. So, it's just fascinating, that whole smell effect combination, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what the cup is even about. I've heard some of these people talk about, and ultimately what these judges and these people look for is the flavors and the terpene profile. Because you get so many different entries of really good pot and really good hash. Between 40 entries, you're going to pick 3, and you have to make sure that they really stand out. So it's definitely a big part of it.
So speaking of that, there was 23 edibles. There was 170 flowers and 130, I think, concentrates.
So when we get back from break, we'll list the winners.
All right. We'll be back in just a second. Thanks.
Tired of dispensary hopping? Trying to find quality meds? Look no further and get to know Greenworks. Our shops are stocked with over 20 strains of organically grown meds, including R4, the highest tested CBD strain in Colorado. Yes, we back up our quality with testing. While Greenworks offers only the highest quality meds, we don't believe in high prices, with eighths ranging from $20 to $40 and ounces capped at $175. With 2 centers in Denver and 1 in Glenwood Springs, we're likely closer than you think. Call 303-647-5210 to find the location nearest you.
The chocolatiers at Incredibles are dedicated to crafting the finest chocolate from high-quality ingredients to ensure the greatest possible medicated edibles in the world. Consistency and quality are top priority. Lab testing on each and every batch. Rick and Josh have been making non-medicated chocolates for years for such retail outlets as Whole Foods and Vitamin Cottage. Today, we are focused on crafting our award-winning medicated incredible chocolate bars. We are professional bakers, and we believe food should be made from scratch. We guarantee your satisfaction. Have an incredible day.
Cannabis is a delicious and effective medical marijuana beverage proudly made right here in Colorado. Each bottle is freshly infused with 100% pure flower extract from the highest grade marijuana plants available today. Using proprietary extraction methods, every bottle of Cannabis is consistently and reliably infused with an exact milligram dosage that you can count on to relieve your symptoms each and every time. Cannabis is delicious. There's never any medicine-y taste. We use only 100% cannabis flowers. No trim or byproducts are ever used in Cannabis. It does not require refrigeration and comes in convenient, resealable multi-dose bottles from 60 milligrams to 200 milligrams. We have drinks with dosage that works best for you. Cannabis is available in a variety of delicious flavors like black cherry, watermelon, pineapple mango, and blue raspberry. And we now have strain-specific beverages available just for you. Cannabis is delicious, convenient, consistent, and effective. Give it a try and experience the Cannabis difference.
All right, Jill, why don't you go ahead and talk about the contest?
Well, I don't want
Or
to
the
sit
cup.
here and list all the winners, so we'll just list a few. But so they did it different this year. They had medical, and then they called it U.S., so there were competitors from across the country. So LA took home some things, but other than that, it was all local. So go Colorado.
I want you to try that LA stuff and tell me what you guys think too.
Yeah, from
Like
the
whoever won.
Oh yeah, from
The Girl
Buds
Scout
and Roses.
cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because come on, Colorado has the best bud. I'm sorry.
But so Girl Scout cookies, which has been fairly popular the last couple of years, took first place for flower for recreational U.S. And then LeConte's took second and DNA Genetics, which I'm not sure who grew it. The Kosher Kush, which won last year too, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. I mean, we actually won Patient's Choice last year for first place with it. So
right.
But yeah, DNA did that.
And so
put Surge on the map.
Yeah.
And the Tangy Shatter from
What
Reserva.
up, Surge?
Yeah, thank you. That match was good.
So the Tangy Shatter, yay, Reserva, took first place for U.S.
Big
Hash.
shout out, Jason.
So why'd you do Shatter?
No, that's
Reserva.
Reserva. That's not Reserva, Colorado.
Okay.
But, so Reserva did, Reserva did.
So why would they
Jason,
do?
He's a friend of ours, and
why would he
we've worked
pick
together
Shatter?
Before. Shatter is, to be honest, like I said, Shatter, is usually made under higher vacuum,
right.
Slightly higher temperatures, and so you lose a lot of the terpenes that are in OGs and some of the more volatile terpenes, and so it just happens that limonene and some of these tangerine terpenes happen to be more stable, so you can take them to higher temperatures. And that's why a lot of shatters people are like, you know what, I like it, it's smooth, but it doesn't taste like too much to me. Tangy is one of those strains that, it'll keep a full terpene profile. There's still ways to mess it up, obviously, absolutely.
Sure.
It's a great strain for shatter. It's absolutely my favorite shatter strain.
See, isn't that interesting? I wouldn't even know certain
you get the
strains.
Beauty and the flavor. And like one of the reasons I like shatter sometimes is that it's easier to work with.
Yeah, it really is,
it just breaks off clean and you don't have to deal with the mess. Although we did see some really cool oil containers at the cup.
Oh, I have one with me.
They were fun. But if you can get the flavor, then it's, I think, by far the prettiest.
Super awesome.
Yeah! And that's why I always say,
non-sticky. Have you seen these?
It's so cool to look at. It's like rock candy almost.
So awesome. Did you see these, Nelson? So non-stick.
No.
Oh wow, these are pretty cool.
Supposedly,
Sorry.
it's also non-toxic.
Oh, do you?
No, I
Sorry.
saw some of these.
But they
watch out,
bounce.
there's
I
something
saw
in
some
there.
round ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, these are awesome.
Oopsie. I thought you pulled it
So wait, I get to take these, right? Because you don't need them.
I like it for display. No, did you not get one, Jill?
I got a little one, and I need multiple.
Yeah, I need
Well,
a big
here.
one. She says.
Take it. You're right. I will not use it.
Like the pill bottle one for every day of the week.
Yeah, I won't
They're
use
actually
it.
more
But what a
for
great
moods.
idea. Those little, so they prevent the hash, which is usually very sticky, from sticking on the container,
that's
which
pretty
I
cool.
think's awesome.
I don't remember their name.
Honestly.
Thank you.
Good job, Oil Slick.
I can't believe you remember
Yeah,
their
seriously,
name.
these must be some.
Are
Are you kidding me? He was
Sorry.
working his butt
I
off
know,
on
and it
Saturday.
was
Well, the whole
total
weekend.
chaos.
And that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So, non-solvent nicotine, of course.
Essential extracts, and we'll have him on soon,
Shout out
hopefully.
Nicotine.
Flow G, which, oh god, that must be good. And then we had in concentrates, which is not solvent lists. So
all kinds, correct? All solvents.
it doesn't matter
Doesn't
what kind
specify?
of solvent.
Okay.
So Gucci Earwax by Pharmaceuticals, and then Lemon G13, which I love that strain. So if that was done well, it must have been delicious. Medical Hybrid was R18 Denver Relief, but I actually think that was OG18.
I think they did a cross. That is it's a DNA strain, the OG18
Right.
is, but
Oh,
I
is
think they
it?
must have done something because there's, the
I
name's
just think
different.
yeah.
Unless that was just Denver release version of it. So.
Or they wrote it down wrong here, which is very possible because I'm seeing some typos.
No,
in
that
here.
is what that is.
And then third place, Ghost OG Kush by the Clinic. And so whose is that? Because I love Ghost OG myself.
We've been growing it, but that is
The Ghost OG is one of the original OGs from California. It's like the SFV, the Larry. It's a cut from Oregon Kid back in the days that circulated on the forums. So it's, just like some of our other OGs, it's just an original. And like I said, the kosher are, our Ghost, they're just kind of what I call benchmark OGs. They just define what an OG should be like, the tight calyx formation, the pine diesel fuely smell. It's just, as far as I'm concerned, they're our two favorite OGs, the best ones we grow.
And is the kosher Kush, that's something you guys did?
Yeah, we did. We did enter it. This year it did not.
But it's from your
It's from
breeding.
DNA.
It is
from
clinic.
Yeah.
From DNA.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay.
And so then medical indica was Skywalker, which I really like too. And then Larry OG2, Banana Kush, done well, delicious. Done poorly. Medical Sativa Clinic got first and third.
Wow.
So Tangy, which we talked about, and then Durban Poison was second, which,
Who's that from?
Love, Choice Organics. Gotta love a good Durban. But then Stardout Guava. So why did you guys enter the same thing 2 years in a row? Did you talk about that? Like, how was that decision-making process?
Yeah, it's a solid strain, and I think, even things like kosher, it's hard to find something that's better than kosher. So
some of these selection processes and these breeding processes take years after years after years. So it's, not necessarily like fashion or anything where there's something new every year. There's, some of these strains just, they tend to stay on top just because it really is difficult. And at this point, everyone's done an OG cross. So, to find something better than the original, something better than like a kosher it's really difficult. And that's why we're, looking into things like, the Tangy and doing things with the Tangy and just making unique flavors. But there's something about the terpene profile and something about the kosher and the ghost and these OGs that really just, at least medicinally, recreationally, it doesn't matter. It puts you down. And I always say medicinally, if it makes you sleep and it makes you eat and it makes you rest, then what more, how much more medicinal can we really get from there? So I really push for the OGs, but like I said, it's real difficult to find anything that's gonna topple these.
Well, and how do you decide which flowers you want to make into concentrates?
Usually, these days, just about everything. But like I said, my favorite flowers make my favorite concentrates. The cool thing these days, like we've been talking about, is been doing blends. It used to be the yardstick of any hash maker used to be if you were able to identify the strain of hash or the strain that the hash came from just by smelling the hash. And so,
that
it
is
was
crazy
almost,
to me.
a golden rule to break that and then do these blends. And people will ask, well, what did you do? And I said, well, I blended this. Like, you're going to have to trust me on this. This is Tangy and Star Dog and Kosher, but it's going to be really good. And, people are finally starting to catch on. They're now like, oh, my God, you didn't just mix in a house batch and just make, a ton of hash. And so it's been different for us. But, there's certain strains are more, they're more resinous. You can tell the terpenes are just a little more viscous, a little more oily. And some of those strains are usually the ones that I like to work with. But, by week 10, I don't know if I really want to work with the strain or not. And it's
really?
Yeah.
So absolutely. Just because of everything?
The way it smells, the way it looks, and I'll say, I'm pretty sure this one's going to make good hash.
Right. Now, do you use flowers, or do you use trim, or do you use a combination? You use both.
We actually use a combination. Mm-hmm. And so everything we run from just flowers we call nectar, and it's also.
Oh, is that what the nectar suggests?
Absolutely.
I didn't know that. So nectar means flowers. Yeah. Okay.
And we also do have our own MIP grow, so things that come out of there are run straight through, and we get an opportunity to work with different kinds of hashes by doing that, but. So far, the straight nectar runs have been, what I've been preferring to smoke on. I guess you could call my head stash.
So when you blend, though, where in the process are you blending? Are you blending before the input?
Yeah, before we do. And it's almost like, your input equals your output. So it's just like any chef would smell like their ingredients before. You can't just mix things together and expect a certain outcome and just guess. You have to have... there's certain ratios that we absolutely stick with that we figured we worked.
Do you think people are what I heard at this cup was just all about the dabbing, and I've never dabbed. I don't dab. Do you think that people are moving away from flowers and just solely going to concentrates?
Well, that's interesting, because I always said a few years ago when I started with these guys that this was the future, and it'd been around for a while, but it was just. And there were, I remember even 5 years ago, it was difficult to smoke hash, like I was using glass and torches, and I had to have glass blowers blow me glass nails because it had such a negative connotation with everything. And now you see it's just kind of, it's so widespread, the paradigm is entirely shifting. But I would definitely agree that there is absolutely a trend, and I see it in the stores. There's more and more people buying hash instead of flowers. When we first started, I feel like it was more of a recreational item, like a leisure item. If people had enough cash, they'd buy a gram of hash. But now people come in, they won't even look at the flowers sometimes. They just go straight for the hash. And a lot of times, it's for more of our medicinal patients, and I think that's more inspirational and motivational than anything else. Like the cups and everything are really nice, but it's good to see that how much our patients are benefiting and enjoying our products.
Well, and I think though a lot of patients tell me that they've moved to hash because they can just take one hit off the vaporizer or whatever, and it'll last a lot longer versus having to smoke a lot more of the flower. Yeah, so I totally understand that. Right. Well, we'll take a break and we'll be right back. Thanks.
InDispensary in Colorado Springs is proud to support Overgrow the Radio. With 2 locations in Colorado Springs, InDispensary invites you to discover what true selection and values feel like. Always featuring an incredible array of Stanley Brothers medicine as well as full line of edible and infused products. InDispensary is open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week, 364 days a year. You owe it to your health and well-being to discover InDispensary. Westside location at 3044 West Colorado and Eastside location at 3031 East Platte in Colorado Springs. InDispensary is your destination for indispensable quality medicine. iVita Wellness is committed to compassionate patient care while providing the highest quality medicine at an affordable price. At iVita Wellness, patients can get top shelf ounces for $150 every day. iVita Wellness also carries pharmaceutical-grade pure CO2 oil. iVita Wellness is located in Uptown Denver on 1616 Pearl Street, open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can reach us at 303-952-9150 or our website at www.ivitawellness.com. iVita Wellness is Denver's Compassionate Care Center.
This segment was brought to you by The Farm, a medical marijuana care center located at 2801 Iris Street in Boulder. The Farm carries premium, cannabis, edibles, and Hummingbird brand products. Visit our new Cannabis lifestyle store for your local artesian glass, vaporizers, and hemp clothing. The Farm has been serving Boulder since 2009. Isn't it time you come and see what we have to offer?
You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
All right, and we're back. Sorry, I'm hugging the microphone. That's what I do. So anyway, so Ryan during the break was telling me that there was entries dropped out for a residual solvent, which I know Can Labs is the only one that quantifiably can give you a number on that. So it's very interesting. I'm wondering if they just lit the hash on fire. I don't know. How would they know? I mean, I guess you guys who are very familiar with hash, can you tell if it's dirty hash? Do you think?
I can visibly look at a lot of hash and smell a lot of hash, but there's no way I would ever smoke it.
Right. Yeah.
So
right.
Maybe I'm identifying it, but I'd be a liar to say that I looked at it and then I went and had it tested and I was accurate. I don't know, but I definitely know that there's a lot of stuff out there that isn't good.
Yeah, and people are using all kinds of different things for solvents like petroleum ether and all kinds of things. So it's just, I always say generally, if it doesn't smell like hash, then I probably wouldn't smoke it.
Well, but unfortunately, there's so many people out there that just don't know, and they trust the label and they trust everything. And one of the big things we do on this show is educate people, and that is that the label most likely is not going to match the product unless they test, and especially for edibles. There is just a gigantic problem with that. And I actually just picked up an edible from a patient's house, and she was paying for a 300 milligram edible, and it had 16 milligrams in it. And I keep telling people there is absolutely no way that you can tell me what's in your edible, your vape cartridge, anything without testing that. And that's been a big problem with the vape cartridges too. They say 250 milligrams, and I test it and it ends up being 109, and it doesn't actually say 250 milligrams of cannabinoids on it, but at the bottom of the cartridge, it has a weight. So how can that 250 milligrams be the weight? So it's obviously suggesting something to people, which is fraudulent, and it's really disappointing. And a lot of companies, all you have to do is test one batch, which is a lot. As you can mix the batches, and the clinic has tested since day one, first with Full Spectrum and Can Labs, and I know you guys take pride in testing, and not only that, but just getting all the information to the patient and the adult user so they know what they're getting, which is very important.
Absolutely. It is extremely important, and I think I think for me, being able to talk to other people about why we do testing and the importance behind it is specifically because right now, yes, I think it's a little bit different. I guess I'll back up and say that out in California, where I think of course a lot of this started, and so that's the basis for what we talk about. But where they had outside growers bringing in product to dispensaries, they created in fact, actually Steve Hill out there created a program called Safe Cannabis, where they were testing that product, and so that the growers would bring it to that dispensary saying, this is good product, and you can know because I've had it tested and checked out. Well, ultimately that program doesn't necessarily work out here because we don't have outside growers bringing us product. If you as a patient are going to come to one of our clinic locations, I am under the impression that you trust us. That you are coming to us because you believe that we are a company that actually did care about this, did go above and beyond and do the testing, that did concern themselves with quality. And so, that's where it's a little bit different. And whereas I think, every patient doesn't come in every single time saying, did you test this bag, this bag, this bag, and this bag, or did you just test, one bud in the whole bulk? That we are generally going to come in right around where that percentage is, and that it's a safe product, and that you're able, that you'll feel more comfortable using it at that point.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. It's just interesting to see how our two models are a little bit different, but in the same sense, we utilize all that information to make ourselves better. We test that product. We do what we need to do internally. Yes, we're going to release the information for patients so that they can see it too, but there's a ton of data and knowledge that's gained internally from reading that,
Well, right. And I want, patients out there to understand, what they are paying for and why, that your prices on, most things are higher. It's because you get what you pay for. And to grow good products costs money. A lot of money. And and these places that are saying top shelf for $150 for an ounce, is just they're cutting the cost somewhere. And that's very important for patients to understand that you do get what you pay for. And there is just so many bad products out there. I can't even tell you what I've seen in my lab, but just going to the clinic versus a lot of other dispensaries out there. I mean, it's evident why, why you should stop in and see what the clinic has, for sure.
And have you found, how do you educate patients that highest isn't best? Because we saw this when Full Spectrum first came into town. There's just this rush to get the highest, biggest number, and some of my favorites are 16%.
For sure.
And so have you seen this patients getting more educated over time?
Oh, without a doubt. I patients have gotten very, very knowledgeable in a very short time period. I think, and as you mentioned, Full Spectrum. I think they kind of started producing a lot of that information that ultimately Can Labs has no question carried over. But it's something that you had to put that testing information into someone's hands, and then you had to ultimately teach the bud tenders what that information meant so that they could relay that information to patients coming in. And so we talk a lot about ratios, not necessarily about percentages, and that is something that, like I said, I think when it first started, patients had no understanding, as well as most people in the industry, but I think now the knowledge has been passed down and people get that. And so, patients will come in and absolutely say, I'm looking for something that is higher in this or has a better ratio ratio of this to this, whatever it might be that they're looking for. And I think our bud tenders, that's how we've trained them to be knowledgeable and understanding what that patient is saying and how that relates to what you're going to suggest to them.
Exactly. And that's something Can Labs has been talking about for a long time is the ratios. Because and that'll help you spread out your strain selection too. Just indica and sativa just doesn't give you enough information on everything. It's really is the cannabinoids. Now, what about CBD? You guys have some CBD strains, don't you?
Yeah, we sure do. In fact, actually, at the first High Times Cup that they did here in 2011, we actually took first for high CBD.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, with our that was the first time they had ever provided or done the award, and so it was really exciting. We won with our pre-98 Bubba Kush, which is I think it won just a little bit north of 13%, and
That's
so
amazing,
which was awesome, And I think one cool thing about pre-98 Bubba is that it looks incredible. I think
which is different. Yeah. CBD, as we all know, looks scraggly, and people would say ugly, but
and so that's why it's nice to be able to have a product that someone comes in that it has an incredible terpene profile, that it looks really sexy, and on top of it, it's also providing these really high percentages of CBD. So we ultimately have taken that and used that as a basis of several crosses that we've done. But we're sort of working in reverse now with CBD. We're trying to breed it back into plants versus breeders over all of these years that have worked tirelessly on breeding it out of the plants. So, so now with us doing that, I think what we've been pretty successful too. We in our first confidential collection with Reserva, we released something called the Lucy, and we're seeing really good solid about 10% CBD numbers coming back. But what we're excited about is that we're seeing 1-to-1s, 2-to-1s, and 1-to-2s. So it's been really cool for us, and again, that's in those ratios that we're talking about, that it doesn't necessarily matter what the THC versus CBD was, what the percentages were, but what those ratios are. Because I think we can talk to patients as they're coming in to say, if you're looking for something, some people, would prefer to have the THC effect with a lighter CBD effect, and so we're gonna get them into the right strain. But then we also went ahead and did a sour Brazi on our sour collection, which is our Luca Brazi, which also is a CBD strain.
Let's talk about Luca Brazi. So I know you guys test a lot, or you were working out, because I remember taking in a lot of Luca Brazi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. So tell me about Luca Brazi and how that came.
Well, and like what you're commenting on, I think there's a lot of individuals I'm sure are listening that have done breeding projects in their past and would love to have an opportunity to have plant numbers like we do, under state law to allow us, to do those phenos. So, whereas, maybe when you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, through 100, well, it's because, we're able to pop hundreds of seeds and start to actually do a breeding project, and that's a challenging thing for a home grower, or somebody that's going to be doing it.
Even a smaller grow.
Absolutely. It takes up a lot of those plants, and ultimately, we're in the business of being able to provide to patients, and we're already having hard times, with inventory levels. So if those patients were not able to come in, it kind of changes things big time. So.
Well, and I want to comment on that too. People have to understand that, I know that patients, because I've been in some of the stores and freak out if you didn't have something. And what they have to understand is, sometimes you don't get that big a yield. Sometimes, whatever the case may be, but that it's not by lack of trying that you're ever out of something.
Yeah, I equated it this summer, which I think, or this, last summer, we saw a huge problem here in Colorado. There was
the last 3 years. Is somebody going to take note?
But, then again, I had people coming to me and saying, this is great. I mean, how can you guys be having a hard time inventory-wise? Well, we weren't necessarily having any changes throughout the summer. We weren't having any changes in yield or any problems along those lines. It was that our numbers of patients that were coming in the door was going up substantially because other people were having some of those issues, And so, there's only so much you can do in this industry to be able to protect that situation. But, you try to do what you can, and you want to, you ultimately want to provide for, for these patients. That is not our objective to not do so. But it's just, it's a challenge sometimes. And that's why, like I said, going through the summer and dealing with those effects is something that, of course, everybody should start taking note and realizing this is going to happen
You'll
again.
have a whole business just if you stock up for summer. Like, if I could grow anything, that's the only business I would have. Just one huge crop, just save it for summer because every
Not
year.
a bad idea.
You know what I'm saying?
Might have heard this.
Now, okay, let's get into a little bit of the politics. What's happening? Have you heard with vertical integration? Where is that at right now? And Jill probably.
It seems like it's back and forth quite a bit here. Obviously we are supportive of the vertical integration model. Well, simply because
you were forced into it and spent a lot of money.
Well, yeah,
right?
That were, I think that's
But
that's the obvious
quality
situation.
control, I think that doesn't.
Do you
exist
think
in
so?
California. Well, I absolutely agree.
You do?
Especially
Okay.
in a company like ours, as far as the hash making process is concerned, I can tell exactly from beginning to end what was used to feed the plants, whether, anything was sprayed foliarly or anything like for feeding or anything like that. I'm able to see all that for myself and, especially for for the product that I grow and run myself. But for the entire company, I'm able to handpick what goes into the trim and what doesn't. And so it makes a big difference, absolutely. And especially for our company, we have even our trimmers that are able to see some of the processes and the end products and able to share some of those end products. It makes a big difference to them. And I think, maybe that's one of those things that California is missing is just, you're buying trim. And some of these MIPs even out here, you're just buying trim from
who knows and what is it? Like,
exactly.
And a ton of those edible companies never test their trim. I mean, it's just, and hopefully with these new testing, being mandated and stuff like that, hopefully we'll be seeing better stuff.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of vertical integration. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially for our industry to move forward. I think it's definitely the way to go.
Well, it's also much safer for the community, to be honest with you. That's vertical integration didn't just happen. It was created, and it was created, under the guidelines of the Med as well. And I think for us to know internally that our product is in the warehouse to the store, everything's tracked, everything's written down. There is nothing that most people are amazed to see our process and how complicated it is to ensure that we've met all of the guidelines, of the state and the Med. And ultimately, when you open up the doors, I'm not against business by any means. I would love, I welcome the competition. It's not a problem for us. But at the end of the day, when you open that up and you allow a lot of these facilities to grow product, you're going to see something similar to what we saw 3.5 years ago, which is
problems.
All product is not created the same, right? And ultimately, just because you have a warehouse and you know how to grow does not mean that you're going to grow product that ultimately people want.
No.
And if you have to keep dropping your price and keep dropping your price to the point where now you're forced to make a decision. How do I pay for my business? I have this building and these people and these licenses, and I'm not selling any product. What am I going to do?
Right.
Well, that's where the black market starts to reopen. And we start to cause ourselves and our state a lot of problems,
Right, because that's what's going to shut us down is seeing product, in New York and some of these other states. But you know what else just dawned on me, too, asking you about vertical integration is it's better for employees, too. Because like you said, you've created a family from the top of the ownership all the way down to everyone, let's just say. Let's not say who's any at the bottom. And it's everybody working together that makes it work. So, I would be more apt if I was looking for a job to join a team versus just, you're just coming in for part-time or whatever.
Well, I mean, something I'm really proud of at the clinic is that we have chosen that we promote from within only. So if once you're in the door, and now you show me what you're capable of course, doors will open and there will continue to be opportunities for you. And so, that is also what vertical integration allows us to do. And it doesn't just mean that someone is pigeonholed. I've got individuals that come in as in the retail store, who have now switched over and they run what we call our DTC department, which is our dry trim cure. I've had individuals from dry trim cure, who are now growers at the clinic. I mean, it allows you some maneuverability, and it's also, it keeps it exciting. I think who would not want to, be able to work in a company where if you
can learn
wake
everything
up tomorrow morning and say, I want to try that, and they allow you to do it,
Right.
And so that's not something that at least I've ever necessarily experienced. So.
Well, and with that said, I have to give a shout out to my dear friend Sunny, who is managing the Highland store. She actually did work for Can Labs and now works for the clinic. Absolutely loves it. And the first thing she said to me was, wow, you have no idea how hard this is to follow regulation. She was like, oh my God. So she sees now both sides, from the third-party testing to actually taking care of patients and everything. But she can't say enough about you guys. But I love you, Sunny.
We do too.
It's
She's
awesome.
awesome.
She is awesome. So anyway, unfortunately, we're out of time. I'll have to have you guys on again. But thank you so much. I know the clinic doesn't do very many interviews, so I feel thrilled, Max and Drew, that we were able to steal these guys for this hour. So thank you. Anything else you guys want to say before we're done?
Thank you for having us on. I'd like to say a quick shout out, I guess, to DNA. Love you, Jason. Tangy Shatter. If you haven't tried it, go out and try it.
No, and I mean, one thing that I want to say, I think that is left off a lot of conversations at some of these awards and everything is that the product that we choose that goes into the cup is the exact same product that comes out of every single one of our warehouses that you potentially have the ability to come in and purchase today. When you talk about selections that we do for the cup, we literally sit down with each grow and look at just the exact same strains that each one of them grew and make a decision which one is going in. So, I know that that's an exciting thing for me to be able to say to, to people that are listening that, hey, yes, we won the cup yesterday and we won, several awards. Today, you can come into our stores. All of those items are available. Obviously, patients are going to be running in there. So check weed maps and check the menus so that we do update our menus in real time. So you guys can get in there. But I'm real proud to say at least that this is the same product that our growers grow every day. And that's the kind of stuff that we win with. So.
That's incredible to point out because I know that there's other growers that just, has been working on that one thing just for the cup and it doesn't, it's not every day that you can get that. So I'm really glad you pointed that out.
No,
so
sure.
5 locations. Why don't you give the locations and then we've got to go.
Yeah, sure. We have one up in the Highlands, 32nd and Lowell. We have Wadsworth at Hamden and Wadsworth. We have Colfax at Colorado and Colfax. Our Colorado store at Mexico and Colorado. It's at I-25 in Colorado. And then we have Cap Hill, which is at 6th Ave and Clarkson in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. So we also have a 6th location that our patients, will probably like to hear that is at Jewel and Union out in Lakewood. So definitely getting out to the kind of southwest, and allowing some individuals in those neighborhoods to be able to access our product. So that one's probably going to be opening here in the next 30 to 45 days. So
fantastic.
Come check us out there too.
TheClinicColorado.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.